there if you want with all the stuff. Okay. Hello and welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for December 4th, 2017. The first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes for November 20th, 2017. One thing, just an amendment to that will be that in attendance, it shows that Sarah Keep is in attendance. She was not attending that. So if someone could make a motion for their approval with that amendment, that would be much appreciated.
I move to approve the minutes from November 20th as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Is anyone opposed?
You didn't vote, right?
Me? I
Okay.
can't vote.
Yeah, no, you can't vote,
Okay,
right.
just want to make sure.
Okay, and so then the next item is, I don't think we have any recognitions tonight.
No recognitions.
So we're just going to roll right to the only presentation, pretty much the biggest item for tonight, the annual report. By you, Jeff?
That would be me.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. I'm here to talk about the annual report. And each December, we bring you all the information that you would love to know about the school district and more. So basically, it's just a compilation of all the information. The presentation, you have the packet of information. This report is slightly different. The presentation is slightly different. There'll be some places in there I'll point out that are different from what you've got in front of you. Just some adjustments we made. And just a quick disclaimer at the beginning that school districts obviously are very complex organizations. They're human organizations. And we believe very strongly in our district. And I know our board has been philosophically in this place for a long time, that we are not defined by one data source. We're not defined by a state test or any other particular piece of data. We're defined by all of it together. And that a healthy school district and healthy schools and healthy students really depends on looking at all of the information that we have about our district, and that's important. So this report has 4 different parts: a demographic part, indicators, key performance indicators, to look at the health of the school district, strategic plan progress report, which will be very brief because it's a link. You've already seen that. And the annual highlights, again, is a link in part 4, so that will also be brief. So looking at our current demographic profile for 2017-18, and you can see these are students in kindergarten enjoying a movement break.
So cute.
They're cute. So I want to just start off by looking at the enrollment from years ago, 2009. I've said this many times, but I feel it's important to say it again. We had 2 studies that were done in 2009 to look at the district's enrollment over a long period of time. And at that time, the information that was available came from NASDAQ and Policy 1. In 2009, NASDAQ predicted that we would have 1,832 students as of right now in 2017. And Policy 1 predicted that we would have 1,789 students in 2017. In fact, we have 2,043 students, and actually I looked at the enrollment the other day. We're at 2,047 since this report was put together. So that's our enrollment today. So if we look at the actual enrollment, 2,043 students, this is a breakdown by school, and also it is a breakdown based on planning decisions, which they're the organization that a year ago gave us a very comprehensive enrollment report for the next 10 years. So you can see that at the K through 3 Mabel Wilson level, we currently have 604 students. Planning decisions predicted 602 students this year. 4-5, 308 students. Planning decisions predicted 298. At the 6-8 level, 488 students, and planning decisions predicted 498 this year. And at the high school, 643, and planning decisions said we would have 645. So we're usually a few students one way or the other anyway in terms of our predictions. And planning decisions also was right on the money and telling us how many students we would have overall is exactly pretty much a match. I've shown you this graphic before, but this is the 10-year projection that planning decisions gave us. Again, 2,043 students is what they predicted, right on the money. And then looking all the way to 2025-26, where at that time they are saying we'll have 2,299 students.
Great, thank you.
Mabel Wilson School, I always like to highlight the Mabel Wilson School because I think it's important to show the rapid growth over the last couple of years at that particular school. In March of 2015, 2.5 years ago, there were 541 students enrolled in the school. Today, December 2017, we have 604 students. And planning decisions projects by 2025 that we will have 708 students at Mabel Wilson if we do nothing else and keep the configuration as it is today. So our demographic profile, 93.3% of our students are considered Caucasian. 6.7% of our students are considered minority by the federal definition of that word, which means Asian students account for 1.6% of our student population. African American students are 1.1%. Hispanic students, 1.1%. Students who identify as two or more races are 2.6%. And students who identify as other, 0.3%. We take that off of registration forms that parents complete. This is our, basically an indicator of poverty in any school district is free and reduced lunch counts. And in our district, our numbers have always been very low in terms of students who qualify for free and reduced meals. Those numbers kind of go up and down and fluctuate depending on the year. This year it went up slightly to 7.3% of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. There are some people in the community or some parents who have told me they don't feel like all the students who qualify for free and reduced lunch fill out the forms in our community. I've heard that many times. So we do make a pretty aggressive effort to find students or families that we think qualify and have not filled out the paperwork. Federal government requires the paperwork to be filled out in order to qualify. And actually our social workers and our guidance counselors do a nice job helping with that every year. Special education has remained very stable. 14.2% of our students are on an IEP, individualized education plan. And our 504 numbers have gone down slightly, partly because we were transitioning for about 2 years. And until we became very stable with who was really on a 504 plan, we were also placing a lot of students who had health plans and considering them or anticipating they would be on a 504 plan. Those numbers were included last year when we did this report because we were anticipating certain numbers. We're now at a place with academic and health where these numbers are pretty stable. We know who the students are in those areas. Julie Olson has done a nice job leading that effort, and we're finally at a place where we can confidently say this is the percentage of students who not just qualify or could be on a 504, but actually are on a 504 plan in our district. And that took a couple of years to get us to that point. Athletic participation, that goes up and down. At the high school and middle school, it went down. And you'll see the yellows indicate something that is gone down. Green indicates something that's gone up. And again, we're only looking at 2 or 3 years at a time, depending on the data. So it's not a huge comparison. Average daily attendance, what drops slightly, that just means the number of students who are showing up on any given day in the whole school district. And you average that out, we are at 94%. Truancy is 0.5%. That went down slightly over the last year. Part of it is I think we've been more vigilant about the students who are truant. There is a state law that went into effect a couple of years ago and requires us to follow up with families more aggressively, and we've been doing that. The number of detentions or students who are serving detentions, that's actually the number of detentions overall, dropped quite a bit from last year to 44. And the number of suspensions went up from 12 to 23 over the last year. And again, these numbers tend to go up and down from year to year depending on what's going on. Volunteer hours went up. We have the largest number of volunteer hours are definitely at the K through 3 level. So those are the numbers that we tend to log the closest. And those numbers have gone up over the last year. It's about 3,000 hours. I'm not going to read through all this, but our special education numbers, as I mentioned earlier, have remained stable. All these categories that you see on this slide come from the State Department of Education. They require us to classify students with disabilities in these areas, and these are the only areas that we are allowed to identify students with disabilities. So you'll see that our numbers are fairly consistent across the board in most of our categories and our totals as well. And at this time, we have only one out-of-district placement, one student that's attending school outside of our district who's on an IEP in our district. So looking at numbers of students who attend school in or out of our district for different reasons, PATHS, which is the technology center in Portland. We have 30 students right now that attend that institution, and they usually go for the morning. And those numbers have been pretty stable over the years. For our Pathways program, because of your support for the 2 positions, the board support and the budget, we have been able to grow that. And those are not just students who are in our alternative education part of Pathways. That's also students who have been enrolled in our what we call ELOs, or extended learning opportunities, students who can get credit in different ways besides just in the traditional classroom, working with Mark Bay. So we've had a huge increase in the numbers because we're offering more now at the high school level. Our private school numbers have gone down quite a bit. I'm not 100% sure why, but the number of students who are deciding to attend private school have gone from 120s to 73. I don't know if that's a blip or what's going on there, but that has dropped. That was kind of surprising to us. Charter schools have been about the same, 29 students attending charter schools. Superintendent agreements in of exactly the same as last year, 52 students wanting to come to the district from other districts. We actually received far more than 52 requests as well, and I couldn't give you the exact number, but it's more than what we actually are able to accept. And then we have 13 students who opted to go out of the district. Homeschool, those numbers, again, go up and down depending on what's going on. They're up right now to 31 students. And our net student loss, if you were to add all those numbers up from private schools down to the net student loss column, our net student loss is 94 students that we've lost to private schools, charter schools, and then you account, obviously, for students coming in and then going out. Your net loss is 94 students. So that's down quite a bit from the last couple of years. I'm not going to go through all this specifically, but just to give you the rundown of all of our staff. We classify our staff, the State Department of Education. For subsidy purposes, we're required to classify our staff in different categories. So you'll see those categories here. We have 411 staff members. If you look at people, the head counts for people who work for us. And then if you look at FTE, which is full-time equivalent, so someone who's working part-time is only considered part-time, 0.8, 0.6, whatever they are. They're put into a full-time equivalent formula that we use. So we actually only have 300, well, I say only, we have 387.08 staff that actually are employed by the district. That does not include coaches, that does not include substitute teachers. That includes everyone else. So the FTEs basically are when you take all your part-timers and instead of saying they're an actual staff member, you put the actual percentages into the staff formula, and that's the number of staff that we actually are paying, and that's the payment that we make, is 387 staff members or FTEs. So part two is performance indicators. How are we doing with our performance in different areas? Some of it's academic, some of it is otherwise. And what I've done and again, I'm not going to go through all these because Sally also went through these about a month ago. But just to give you a quick rundown, we do look at our state assessments as indicators for each of our schools. Teachers College running record at the elementary level, we use that. And we've transitioned to the iReady Reading and Math, which is a universal screen that we use. And you'll see no data in 2015-16 because we did not have iReady in 2015-16. We had the STAR assessment. So as we've transitioned, next year we'll have 2 years of data from iReady. So that's why you're seeing that. So you'll see that we've improved in state assessment at grade 3 in reading and math, and that our Teachers College running record numbers dipped slightly from last year. At grades 4 or 5, you'll see again a similar spread where we go up in some areas and a little bit down in others. We're fortunate now that we have 2 years of data for the main educational assessment, and that's why you only see 2 years of data. Next year we'll keep 3 years so you can look at 3 years. This has been the first time in 5, 6, 7 years that we've had any consistent data for 2 years at a time. This is, it's great to at least have 2 years that we can look at. So I don't think, again, it's giving us a good trending until we have 3 or 4 years of data, but at least it gives you something that we can consider. Grades 6 through 8, again, a similar setup. We're kind of up and down depending on where we are. In your packet, there is an accelerated math area that I gave you data on. When I was talking to Mari Trebilcock today, we decided that that was really not telling the story that we wanted to tell, and so you've got that in your packet. The story we really want you to know about are the students who are enrolled in Algebra 1. That's a really good indicator for us, for students who are ready for high school math. And actually, taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade is high school math. And so we tend to be in about a third of our students tend to take Algebra 1 while they're in 8th grade. The accelerated number that you have in your packet is based on a very small group of kids who, starting in elementary school, accelerate. We give them actually a year's growth beyond where their typical peers are in math. And it's a very small group. We're actually trying to phase that out as much as we can. We're still going to continue with it for now. But our new math program, everyday math component that we started a couple of years ago, plus the CMP math program at the middle school, is filling a lot of the gaps that we feel are not necessary for needing to continue with the accelerated math. So we're actually reviewing whether or not that will continue, but for now it is. At the high school, you can see all of our state assessment data went up over the last year. Our calculus enrollment, which is a good measure also of advanced math, just as we look at Algebra 1 in 8th grade, we want to know for math purposes, our kids taking calculus. And we've stayed very steady at 47 students. That's a very good indicator of rigorous math programming at the high school level. National Merit Scholars are about the same. Have usually been anywhere from 5 to 10 a year. On path to graduate by the end of 9th grade. 9th grade is an extremely important year for students. If students are on track by the end of 9th grade, there's tons and tons and tons of research that says if they are sure to graduate without a problem. And they're sure to do very well after 9th grade. If they're having trouble, if they're struggling in ninth grade, that's usually a big warning sign that, things could be tough in the last 3 grades of high school. So we like to look at that. We think it's very important. We're fortunate that our numbers are very strong there, and we have put some things into place in the last 3 years with the board support to help students who are not on track by the end of ninth grade, whether it's credit recovery, alternative education, and RTI pieces in the high school. Course failures, if I could go back 5 years, I would, and show you the information we have that. Those numbers have been slowly going down. I think it's a lot of the work that's been going on with RTI at the high school and also before high school in helping students to get the help they need so that they are not getting to the point where they're failing a class. That is our goal. So those numbers are going in the right direction. In credit recovery, we've been increasing our offerings for students who need credit recovery. Credit recovery is basically a student who needs to recover part of a credit. Instead of taking the whole course over again, they can actually take part of a credit and get that partial credit if they need it, instead of taking the whole course over. Back in the old days, you fail a course, you take the whole course over. Now we say, is there a part of that course that you can partially recover and then still get credit for the course? And we do have students who benefit from those programs. So post-secondary readiness beyond high school, obviously we look at our SAT scores, we look at ACT scores. Very few students take ACT. The vast majority of our students rely on their SAT scores, especially as they're applying for college. You can see our numbers are quite strong on the SAT. Enrollment in AP and IB courses has remained almost exactly where it was a year ago. We have pretty strong enrollment in at least one AP or IB at 66% of our students taking at least one of those courses. In 3 or more AP or IB courses, we have about a third of our students who are taking 3 or more, which I think is a very strong number still for looking at that, where we've been pretty consistent. Also, we like to look at how students are faring on AP and IP exams at the end of the year. So you can see that if you get a 3 on an AP exam, that is a passing score. That means that you can, in many colleges or universities, you can get out of a course if you successfully pass it in high school. So 74% of our students passed the AP exam, and 83% of our students who took the IB exam, and if you want to pass the IB exam, it's a 4+. So that's where we're at with that. So the majority of our students are doing very well when they take the course and then they take the test. The IB diploma completion, last year we had a very high number of students who opted to do that. It's very rigorous, and we usually have only a small group of students who are interested in taking all IB courses for 2 years. That's a huge commitment, huge commitment. And so I applaud students who are willing to do that. Usually we're having only a handful of students that do that. Last year we had a larger number for whatever reason, and this year we kind of reverted back to where it used to be. Graduation rate, I would have had a number tonight. However, the state has a new system that they're using this year, and we've been transferring all of our data over, and that system was not ready for graduation rate calculations. So we do not have that information tonight. But when I do have it, I will let the board know. And post-secondary enrollment, we've always been in the high 80s or 90%. So we're at 90% for the class of 2017. And I won't go through these numbers. You know, you've seen all these numbers in the past, or most of these numbers. These are budget numbers, just kind of putting them all in one place. You can see our state subsidy, of course, went down about $500,000 in 2017-18. The unassigned general fund balance, we'll have that information by the end of the year, by January. the audit is completed, and we'll be sharing the audit's results with the Finance Committee coming up. So we'll have that information, and same with the net capital assets. That information is also included in the audit that will be presented. So there's a link, and I've shown you the stakeholder survey results for students, staff, and parents. So I certainly won't go through that presentation again, but if anyone interested, there is a link that you can click, and it will take you right to it. If you want the abbreviated version, this is the number of parents, students, and staff who on the survey indicated a positive response. 94% of our parents, 82% of our students, and 90% of our staff indicated positive results in the 2017 stakeholder surveys. So the strategic plan progress report is the same report that I presented to the board back in June, and again, it's linked. If you would care to look at that again, or if you'd like to look at it, it will be located in the report. If you want the abbreviated version, we are at 67% still. We are right on schedule for finishing the strategic plan in June of this year, or June of 2018. And these are the areas, you've seen this before, in August, that we said that we had substantially completed in the strategic plan. Excuse me. And then these are the highlights from the last school year. Again, there's a link that will take you to the annual town report. This is not just the Cumberland report. This is also North Yarmouth. I just gave you the sample of the Cumberland report there. They're the same report. And just to give you a sample of what was in the highlighted reports, we obviously had a nice event last year regarding the Spirit Challenge at the high school, and there's a photo of that as well. So those are the kind of fun things you can read about if you wish to. So that is the annual report for 2017. A lot of it goes back to 2016, 17. Some of it is just 2017 as well. So that gives you a picture, hopefully, of the district, where we're at, and the health of our, where we're planning to go.
Thank you. Does anyone have any some follow-ups or questions? Karen?
Thank you for a very comprehensive report. I did just want to follow up. This, I think, is a couple of things that stood out for me were the reduction in the detentions.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this, if I remember correctly, they had been reduced last year as well. So that would be nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's nice to see some, extended data on that. I know we have it in our report. So, and I think that not only at the high school but also at the middle school,
Mm-hmm.
that coupled, the reduction in detentions, the increase in the number of students that are completing or recovering credit for
Mm-hmm.
courses, as opposed to failing courses. Those are all the pieces that I know the board and you and certainly our staff have talked about in terms of the culture that we want, a culture of learning, a culture of supportive environment for our students. So I'm hoping that that's part of the reason why we see the 94% satisfaction rate among parents and the high number of our students who continue to stay with us, as opposed to, I understand some people are always going to leave, particularly at the high school or sometimes middle school level, if for potentially a religious reason or, potentially just wanting a smaller or different type of environment. But I think those numbers, it's been really gratifying to see that type of support to the students that we know, we weren't, when you look at the academic performance indicators, there, some of the students that weren't quite achieving what they want to achieve, what their families want to see them achieve. So, it looks to me like we're on the right path, and this isn't a continuation of some of the numbers that we've seen. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel really good about that.
Yeah. Every year we do survey our 8th grade families, and we ask them, we get a pretty good response back. We just ask, are you coming to Greeley High School or are you going somewhere else? And those numbers are usually pretty consistent. They're 8%, 8 to 10% of our students go on. And most of the reasons that we get back from families, the vast majority are our family has always gone to Cheverus or Waynfleet or wherever it is, Maine Girls Academy. So that's just where we feel comfortable.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions? Vicki? No. Kate? Andrew? Tyler?
Good. She hit on the detentions, which I thought was
Okay.
a great number to see.
Karen again?
Just one other thing that is, I know that we use calculus as a barometer of rigorous math, but I also think that there's been a lot of discussion, and if Sally was here tonight, I think she'd probably pop up and agree about statistics and AP statistics. So I don't know if that's something, 'cause I think between the two, we see probably the core of our students taking one of those upper level, or one or the other, because you typically get off it at the same time.
Right.
So I don't know I just think that's a conversation I've heard, well, actually more than a conversation, I mean, on an academic level, that AP statistics is potentially more meaningful to students as they move into college.
Yeah, I'm going to make a note of that actually, just to make sure we've got that covered. So every year we try to make sure that this is actually reflecting the important things that we consider, an indicator of how our students are doing. And the detention piece, I just want to come back to that for 1 second. Our administrators have been using more of the restorative practices. So instead of a student immediately being assigned a detention, we also have been doing this with suspensions as well, even though our suspension numbers are up. The restorative practices that we're using often will do that in lieu of a consequence. So an administrator would say, especially at the middle school and high school level, our administrators have all been trained, instead of doing that, getting a detention, would you like to participate in a restorative circle? And most of the time students want to. Occasionally we have a student that says, no, I don't, and they'll receive the consequence instead, but they have an option. And we find it's more effective and more positive to be involved in getting kids to talk to other students or staff or whoever they had an issue with, and reflecting instead of just always getting the consequence. There are certain things that need a consequence, and that we don't get away from that. But there's a lot of discretion that administrators now use in doing that. So I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing improvement in those numbers.
Is there a way to count those restorative circles to reflect that number?
We
some
could,
other time?
we really could, because the middle school and high school is obviously where we use that, and I could ask for us to start logging that.
That'd be a good number to look at, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be a great number.
Well, it's a great report. I mean, it is, it's great. I mean, it's interesting. There are some blips that are like, that you'll look and you'll be like 10% here increase, but it really does, positive trending, and I love that we're capturing all this information, and even though we have no data, I feel like just even in my time on the board, the amount of information that we're tracking and the feedback, we're just really working it in terms of understanding how we can capture areas of improvement and also improvement going on. So it's really an exciting time, and I do think that the private school numbers were interesting, especially because charter schools stayed the same. That I would have thought maybe they were toggling on charter and private, but we're not really
Might be
seeing
a year
that.
from now I come and show you the numbers have gone back up, but
Right.
it's
No, and then next
it's
year
an
we just won't
interesting
say it.
trend. So
It is just
makes
a-
us think.
Yeah, but anyhow, this is great. It's very, very helpful, and I know it combined a lot of other reports that we've had in the past. So, if everyone, I think we're all set now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you then gonna? Oh, okay. I'm just report. Ah, you're back. Superintendent's report.
All right, superintendent's report. There's all kinds of great things going on as usual. Very busy in the district. The math team has really been having a great season. They're currently in first place. I believe they still are in both their division, which is the Pine Cone South Division and the Medium School Division. Some of our students, Madison Albert is in first place for freshmen. Matthew Smith Erb and James Browder are in 6th and 18th place for juniors. Gregory Pershing and Peter Theodoros are in 1st and 3rd place for seniors. Gregory, Peter, and Madison are in 1st, 4th, and 10th place overall, respectively, as well. So we've just had some really great success on the math team. Greeley is also, the Greeley math team is in 5th place overall in the state of Maine. And Madison Albert is the highest scoring freshman in the whole state, which is amazing, and 39th overall. Gregory Pershing is in 2nd place overall in the state, and Peter Theodoros is in 17th place in the state. So those were worth mentioning. They're really done a wonderful job. Project Sticker Shock is a program that we work with the police department on. Brings community members, youth, law enforcement, and local businesses together to raise awareness around selling alcohol to minors. And we had, if you went into Food Stop, I was in there not too long ago, I saw some of the stickers on there. They put bright orange stickers on alcohol containers, which emphasizes the importance of not selling alcohol to minors. And the goal is basically to make sure that we're keeping a safe community and keeping our youth very safe. So I'd like to really thank, we had a bunch of students involved in that: Olivia Murley, Jacob Boyle, Jake Cunningham, Kate Curran, for leading this for the students. We also like to thank Casco Bay Can, Cumberland Police Department, Officer Dahlback, Chief Rumsey, Lieutenant Young, many of the business owners, including Food Stop, the North Yarmouth Variety, Cumberland Irving, J Brothers, and Mr. McCune from the high school. Really appreciate all the support. I think it was a very worthy project that they were all involved in. So I Love Public Education is a national campaign right now that's being pushed by the American Association of School Superintendents. And they have on their website a link to different photos that show that we do and indeed love our public schools. So on my blog tomorrow there'll be a link, and I believe it went out also on Twitter and Facebook last week. If you want to vote for our photo, it's a photo of a veteran who came in over Veterans Day, the Veterans Day week right before the holiday. And all of our 3rd grade students had a veteran or a visitor come into the class from the Post 91 in Yarmouth and work with our students around flag etiquette, the importance of remembering our veterans and all of that. And it's a program that we started this year in collaboration with Post 91. So if you would like to vote for our photo, we'd love to have you go to their website, and it'll be on the blog tomorrow. And I'd like to congratulate class of 2018, Corey Farnham, who was chosen to participate in the All-National Honors Chorus Festival. And this is a huge honor. She was one of approximately 280 singers from 49 states. So just an amazing award to be given. And the 4th and 5th grade chorus held their first concert of the year, and I heard it was great. I was not able to attend. In proficiency, in looking at proficiency in my blog this week also will be the next, I know some people are just waiting for this blog entry every time I put it out. I'll be talking about transferable skills, that content knowledge isn't enough anymore in the 21st century, that transferable skills are extremely critical. Our business roundtable that we hosted last spring, we had area businesses come in and tell us what they wanted from employees in the future. And absolutely, by and large, they all said the same thing. We need students who are responsible, who can communicate, who are self-directed, who are problem solvers, who work well with others, are responsible, and can think on their feet. And those are the things that we heard. The state of Maine has guiding principles for proficiency, and we're just starting the process of assessing our students, or figuring out ways to assess our students on these very important portable skills. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. It is lots of exciting things going on.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of things. I love the blogs and the reports. So I don't think it looks like we're going to have any public comment tonight. So let's go ahead and we'll roll out to committee reports, and we'll just take them as they appear in the agenda. So Karen, would you start with finance, please?
Yep, finance generally meets on Tuesdays right after board meetings, but we will be meeting this week on Wednesday from 8:15 to 9:30, and the finance committee the finance committee for the town of Cumberland and our finance committee will be meeting together just to we've done this for a number of years. Just to take a very high-level look at what the district has before itself and our budget for the next year coming up, and what the town sees as generally their big-ticket items coming up in their budget. And it gives us an opportunity to talk about it and to understand, the challenges that each of us are facing. So that'll be Wednesday at 8:15 to 9:30.
Yeah, I've sat in on those before and attended them before, and they're really, it's just nice. It's just a nice level of communication, and it's good timing this year in terms of getting ahead of the budget. So I appreciate you and Scott and others organizing that, and I look forward to that. Does anyone have any questions for Karen? Okay, then I'm going to just, Kate, would you go ahead and take policy, please?
Policy met this evening. We typically meet before each school board meeting. We covered a couple policies today. They just got a second look after some input from Drummond and Woodsum, selection of education materials form for those selections. Hazing was one of the ones we covered today, accommodations of sincere beliefs and required instruction. Most of these have just needed a cross-reference update, as well as some new language put into them, especially around technology. And we will meet before the next school board meeting on December 18th at the North Yarmouth Town Hall at 5:30.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Did you want to do curriculum?
Sure. We haven't met since the last meeting, but our next meeting is going to be on December 20th at 8 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have anything for negotiations. Facilities, I will take that. Mike's not here, and we did have a meeting today. It was presentations. We had a quick update on the space study, which is just beginning to roll out now. They've begun to do some communications. Steve Blatt's office, has begun to do some communications with the administrators at the high school. And so that's really at a nascent stage, but we have gone ahead and signed that agreement, and we are looking for rollout dates and reports with the hope of really having it pretty well along towards the end of this year, and a nice sense of where we're going in March. I think there'll be another report. So it's nice to see that going. I think anyone who's been on campus, the pack itself gives a pretty good update that it's moving along. It's getting to a really exciting point. I think we're all very grateful for the patience and excitement in the high school with some of the construction noises and rumbles and and the shaking. There is a particular piece of equipment that's being used right now that is causing the shaking, and that we anticipate that will be ending pretty soon. But it is also hoped that a lot of the steel beams, not all of it, but will be going up over the holiday break. Things will look pretty significantly different, I think, in January. It's not going to be, all the steel, and then there will be some rolling out, that there will be some fascia going up. Some of I think those yellow boards and some of the insulation will start going up. They will actually have it framed out and then keep the footing, I'm going to slaughter all the words, but it will be all still gravel, and the thing when they do construction, so they can do conduit and piping, and then they will lay out the flooring. So Grover's been going great. They're doing very, very well with Ledgewood too. So it was a really favorable report, and it's an exciting project. And again, thanks for everyone for their patience. Do you want to add on to that at all?
No, I think the steel is the big one, and that will be, I think they said it will be completed hopefully by the early part of February. And that will really show the building
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, so I think when you see it, the footprint itself, no matter how many times I saw the plan, it's really quite something in the amount of fill that's been going in. So we are going to circle back later on as to just at least the discussion of what we're going to name the facility. And we're going to hit that because tonight's been a little bit light on the item, so we're going to talk about that at communications. And if we can vote on it, I think we'll try to, but if not, we're not under a huge crunch, but we would like to sort of nail down the naming. It's not too elaborate, the differences. But, Karen, or strategic planning, do you want to cover that in Kevin's absence?
Sure. So the next, actually, the Strategic Planning Committee, as we all know, is still collecting or gathering the voices. We're in the gathering the voices stage of the process. As part of that, a survey is being drafted that the committee, the Strategic Planning Committee, will look at in total at our next meeting, and that's scheduled for December 18th at 4 p.m. Right here in the library.
Thank you. Tyler, environmental stewardship?
Yeah, we haven't met since our last meeting here. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 9th at 3:30.
Perfect, thank you. Andrew, do you want to give a student report?
Yeah, so not a whole lot really is going on in the high school, except for we do have Spirit Week this week, which is always kind of exciting because everyone always dresses up in really weird and outrageous outfits. And it's sort of a good, I guess, like distraction from like all the work and stuff that we're doing. But yeah, the sort of the sense I guess around the high school is everyone I guess is really in cruise control, like trying to sort of get through the last like big projects before the holiday break, and then before you know it, like first semester's over and all that stuff. So we're just getting through that. But other than that, it's going pretty well.
Okay. Well, very good. I know Spirit Week is a lot of fun, a lot of discussion about pajama day, I should say,
Yeah.
party. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Isn't there a hypnotist that's coming?
So I've heard.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Yeah.
Everybody will be asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or so they think.
Oh, they think.
So they
They're not
think.
really sure.
All right. Well, good. We've gone through the committee reports. Thank you. Why don't you want to talk about communications, then name, and then we'll also.
Yeah, I just, like Gigi mentioned, we wanted to see if we could nail down the name of the Performing Arts Center, which has been referred to as a Performing Arts Center, but I think there's definitely a feeling that performing might be too limiting for looking at the Performing Arts Center, and maybe taking the word performing out of it. And so thought it would be a good time to have a discussion about what the name is. At some point in the near future, we'll have to nail down the name so that the architects can start preparing the name of the facility. They actually have to, we're actually ordering all kinds of stuff up front. So this is one of the things that in the near future, they'd like to get a commitment from what the name will be.
So there were Tyler, you had made a good suggestion that one thing we thought was Greeley Center for the Arts. And then there was some discussion about Greeley Arts Center and or keeping it as Performing Arts Center. We do think, I've spoken to different people that having Greeley in the name is obviously important. So with that, I think what I'd like to do is just get people's input, and if you have another suggestion, you can do it. But right now, what we've been hearing is really just the two, and that we talked about it briefly in facilities also, is Greeley Center for the Arts and Greeley Arts Center. At least in facilities, I think the barometric read was going towards Greeley Center for the Arts, but I certainly don't want to prejudge that. So if anyone has any thoughts on it, one reason, in addition to needing to get the signage ordered for the center, is just beginning to put it into our parlance, because right now everyone's been sort of the generic name or very descriptive name of the Performing Arts Center, which was part of our effort getting it done, but now we're really moving towards the branding of the building and beginning to get it into our conversancy. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, I welcome them. Tyler, did you want to?
Sure, I think that Greeley Center for the Arts is my vote, and I think it sounds really powerful and inspiring, and I think it opens it up to all sorts of different types of arts. And I think that, yes, we may be stuck on PAC, but that's this group. There's lots of generations to come and lots of third-party groups and community members and other people that will be part of this facility that won't remember the planning name. So absolutely, that's my thought on it.
I like Center for the Arts, Greeley Center for the Arts as well.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, I think that's probably where I would lean as well.
Great.
Yeah, no, I think the sound of Greeley Center for the Arts is very fitting, basically, and it opens up to, it's not just theater, it's it can be everything. It's just nice.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Tyler. I think the name is pretty elegant, and it also sort of embodies everything that it means and stands for, and it opens up, as Tyler said, it opens up a lot more opportunities, I guess, for future generations that will be using it. And yeah, just it's pleasing to hear. It sounds really nice.
Yeah, I liked it from initially when Tyler suggested it. I've never really been a big fan of PAC
No.
because it just has a negative connotation
It
to
does,
me.
especially little political.
In this environment, today's
Yeah.
environment, so I don't like GAC either, so I think, thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, it really was a nice stroke. Kate, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, definitely Greeley Center for the Arts, I think, is the way to go. And thank you to Tyler for kind of just bringing that. You know, I think I myself got stuck in Performing Arts Center. So it was really nice to get a more fresh point of view that came through with a really nice, as Andrew said, elegant name.
Yeah, it really top notch. Good job catching that, because it had just become
Absolutely.
part of our parlance. So I think then we pretty much have a read on it. I don't think there's anything we need to.
Like a motion?
Do we need to take a
We
motion?
could take a vote. I mean, it would probably be
Okay.
more solid.
Would someone like to make a motion on that? Do you want to try, Tyler?
Sure. I'll make a motion to vote on naming the PAC to,
The
to
heretofore.
the Greeley Center for the Arts.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you very much. Do you want to do it before, or should I do that?
No, you can do it.
Okay. The other thing is that, and this is one of our really exciting board activities that Jeff has been championing and working with the administrators for. We don't yet have dates, but please, the board goes to school. There will be sign up. We do have dates now?
Yep. Fran sent an email.
Fran
just
sent
got
those
it.
Fran sent the email, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Like Friday.
I don't have the dates now.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so those will be the dates. Please take a look at it. Sign up if you can. Try, we might not be able to go to all of them, but feel free, and I think it's going to be an exciting time for that. Okay, I think then, are there any other items for action? No? All right, would someone like to adjourn? Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?